The Leafs give away 2 points in the Battle of Ontario with sloppy defensive play, and John Klingberg is officially in Keefe's doghouse with some scathing remarks about him after the game. We'll get into all of that and more on today's edition of the Locked On Leafs podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. It's your team every day.
You're Locked On Maple Leafs, your daily podcast on the Toronto Maple Leafs. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
Hello and welcome into the Locked On Leafs podcast, a daily Maple Leaf-centric podcast hosted by myself, Mike DiStefano, and my co-host, Dave Morassutti. Not a great one, Dave. Definitely one to forget if you were a Toronto Maple Leafs fan, and one to forget if you're John Klingberg.
I don't have words after watching that third period. Was the biggest waste of my life
So
far this season.
I was in the building. I last minute, buddy hit me up, got tickets to the game. You want to come? Absolutely. Battle of Ontario. This should be a great game tonight. You know, Matthews been dancing, that new line they cook. I'm excited. Let's go. I should have known right away that tonight was going to be a terrible night, because the second I get on the streetcar to go down the Queen's Quay to get to, Union, to get into it started raining the second I get outside, and it is pouring outside. And then I get to like Queens Quay and Spadina, and they say, sorry, we are stopping service here. There is an accident ahead, and there are supposed to be shuttle buses to come and take you the rest of the way. Well, so I'm sitting there for like 10 minutes. No bus comes, nothing. And I'm like, I'm going to be late for puck drop at this point. So then I just decided to walk it. So I had to walk it in the rain, the stormy ass rain that we had here in Toronto at like 6:30. I get there, I'm soaking wet. And then I had to sit through that game soaking wet, cold inside the rink. Oh, it was just terrible. Terrible.
Yeah, I mean, you're bad juju all around. Didn't you like lose your poppy too through all that as well?
There was also that, yes, in
Because
the
you
midst
like
of all the wind.
You saw me and you're just like, oh yeah, my poppy, and you went to go look for it. It's like
Gone.
gone.
Well, it was on my coat, and it was windy as all heck outside. It just, those things they fall out so easily. That is one thing that happens all the time with those things. But yeah, like, let's get into this game, Dave. Just a brutal one. Like I said, I was there. I was in the building. There was no life in that building. The Leafs didn't give them really anything to celebrate. I mean, they opened the scoring, getting the first goal, but ultimately that was about it, because then they were trailing and chasing the entire night, and then things just completely unraveled in the third period. But like, I don't know who to blame more. I think I know the answer, but like, obviously Klingberg and Gio were terrible tonight. Klingberg even more so, but it's becoming honestly such a predictable and boring storyline to just sit here and talk about how bad Klingberg is. Like, we just know that this is Klingberg. This is him. This is who he is. He can't defend. He cannot play defense. He can't process the game quick enough. On so many of those goals, you sit there, he's either losing a puck battle, or he's just disinterested and literally just standing in front of the net, not doing anything. Nothing. It's so brutal. But also, not a great game from Joe Woll either. So we'll get into both of those things. But let's start with Klingberg, because here's where I have the issue. He was signed, like, this guy's making over $4 million. Like, he's making a good amount of money. That is a large percentage of the cap dollars that this Maple Leafs team in the summer decided to allocate to him to take up, basically top 4 minutes. And there's no way in hell that this guy can do that going forward. It just can't happen. They can't have him playing any minutes, let alone 15, 20, 25 minutes he played the other night. Tonight, only 15 minutes, and he's found himself in the doghouse. And I think Sheldon Keefe has finally snapped and realized, guy can't play. We can't try anymore. This is what Sheldon Keefe had to say about Klingberg's play after the game. He was asked by reporters if he's concerned about Klingberg's play, and Keefe simply said yes. And then when asked what needs to change specifically, Keefe says, we need to protect him better. And look, I've been in those scrums, I've been in those pressers. I know how he speaks, and those were very short answers, which means he is a pissed off man. And Keefe does not want this guy on his roster. But you think about it, he was a July 1 ad. He was a priority ad for this new management group, right? Brad Treliving comes in, and the first big signing he makes on free agency is Ryan Reaves. And the second big signing he makes is John Klingberg. Those have been the two worst players on this team all season long.
Yeah, I mean, we discussed that deal and not really being all too excited about it. Like, I saw the deal and I'm just like, okay. It felt like one of those where it was like so many other defensemen went that day, and the Leafs were like, we're gonna get the guy that's left through the whole everything that happened. That's usually a bad. Sometimes like good things happen when you wait for guys to be available, but then there's a reason why a bunch of other teams decided John Klingberg was not the guy we wanted to go out and get, and the Leafs fell for that trap.
Yeah, pretty much. That's exactly what happened there. Like tonight, just brutal. You look at, he was on the ice for 4 goals tonight, 4 goals against. First goal, lost a puck battle in behind the net, and Kubalik ends up firing it through. Also, Woll got to make that save. That literally went under his pad that he kicked out. Second goal, Klingberg stumbling as he's skating backwards to defend against the rush, gets himself out of position, then gets caught just puck watching in front of the net and is doing absolutely nothing as the puck goes across the crease through the paint. And he just sits there and lets it happen and just watches. Oh, look at that. A great pass over to Claude Giroux. What a pass. Guy, you're supposed to defend that and knock it away. You're not supposed to allow cross-crease passes. That's what your job is as a defenseman. And he just decides not to do it, apparently. Again, the 3-2 goal on the ice. Lose another puck battle in behind the net off of a Sens dump in, and Chychrun ends up scoring 5-hole. Another weak goal by Joe Woll, but still, Klingberg losing a puck battle is what led to that happening. And then, obviously, on the ice again was the 5-3 goal. And that was another, that was the cross ice backdoor feed from Giroux to Stützle. And I went back and I looked at that play, and I'm thinking to myself, Klingberg has his stick on the short side, right? For Giroux, if Giroux was to shoot on the short side, okay, he has that covered off. But first and foremost, Giroux's a playmaker. The odds of him shooting are very slim. And B, take away the passing option and don't let the backdoor feed go through. That's just, again, making not smart decisions. Not a smart decision. So by taking away the shot threat, he leaves open a backdoor feed to Tim Stützle, who makes no mistake about it, gets it into the back of the net on a quick one-timer. And it's just time after time after time, this guy was sent out there and just continually is making mistakes, not processing the game properly. The details aren't there. He doesn't shoot the puck either. No. I don't know who claimed him to be an offensive defenseman. I guess he used to be when he put up 50 points when he was
once
Dallas. He was. Dude, this guy is not an offensive. He's nothing. I don't know what he is. He's a minor league defenseman at this point in his career. Guy had 0 shots on goal. And I remember vividly 2 or 3 opportunities where it's here's a good look at the net. And where the crowd is yelling shoot. Those moments where the crowd just gets frustrated because the guy just holds on and does nothing and it's just afraid to shoot the puck. That was tonight with John Klingberg, where it's shoot the damn puck, man. and just refuses to do it. So I don't know what this guy is doing on the ice. Nothing positive, and he just continually is getting scored on and giving up a lot of chances against and leaving the goaltender out to dry. Leafs got a serious problem with this guy on their hands. Serious problem.
Yeah, I mean that goal, the goal where it was like the tic-tac-toe play, and everyone's like, "Oh, what a beautiful play." He was just basically like, "You guys got this, right? I'm just gonna stand around here and just watch this all unfold."
Dude, the
You guys
puck
good,
went
right?
through the crease where he easily should have had his stick there defending that
Yeah.
cross ice pass. That's what he's supposed to be doing. That is what the assignment should be at that moment, given how the game is going, right? Like where everyone is on the ice. That's the assignment. And instead, he's just got his stick out to the side, to just watching it as if he's on the bench, forgetting he's actually in the game. I-
Yeah. I'm gonna ask a serious question. Now, maybe we can debate this in the next segment. But we just saw the Edmonton Oilers put Jack Campbell on waivers. At what
Ooh.
point do the Leafs consider doing this to John Klingberg? What
I
point does
tell
it
you
have
what,
to get for the team to consider it?
why don't we take a quick break and come back, and maybe we can have a quick chat about that, because the thoughts crossed my mind. I'm sure it's crossed many minds in Leafs Nation. So we might as well, have a quick discussion about that. So why don't we take a break? We'll come back. We'll get into it, and then we'll also go through the good, the bad, the ugly from tonight's game, because it wasn't just Klingberg who played poor. There was a lot of other bad that we saw tonight, and some good. So we'll talk some good stuff. So you guys stick around to get to the good, but we'll do all that afterward from today's show sponsors. Dave, tell us about our good friends over at Jace Medical.
Yep, we spend a lot of time together, you and I. We get fired up together, wins and losses, who starts, who sits. I'm thankful for that connection we have. And today, I want our chat to be a little more personal. Whether you're on extended travel, bracing for a major weather event, or limited by yet another supply shortage, you are covered, my friend, thanks to our partners at Jace Medical. Life-saving antibiotics and a long list of daily medication can be ordered in a 1-year supply. Even ED generics for Cialis, Viagra, and Revatio prescriptions. Go online right now at jacemedical.com to receive your 12-month supply on your daily medication. Remember to use promo code LOCKEDON at checkout for a discount as well. A verified customer had this to say about Jace. I am thankful for this service. Supply chain issues caused me to cut pills in half to have it. I ordered most of my daily meds with a year supply. I also ordered an antibiotic kit. I feel secure now. Prices are lower than local pharmacies. I highly recommend this for everyone. If you or someone you love would want to get some peace of mind by having a year supply of daily med, go to jacemedical.com to see if it's offered for you. Remember to use promo code Locked On for $20 off your purchase.
Welcome back into the Locked On at Leafs podcast. It's Mike DiStefano and Dave Morassutti. We're hosts here on the Locked On Leaf Show. We do have new shows coming out to y'all each and every weekday, Monday through Friday. If you're an everydayer, you know that. Thank you so much for coming back and enjoying the show. But if you are new to the podcast, or you have yet to subscribe, which I think like 60% of our listenership are unsubscribed, which is not ideal. So if you enjoy our content, we would ask that you subscribe. That definitely helps us a lot. Give the video a like, and also let us know down below. Dave, you asked the question right before we came to break. How much worse does it need to get, essentially, for the Leafs to consider placing John Klingberg on waivers? I would like to know the people's thoughts on that. Let us know in the comment section below. Are you done with John Klingberg to the point where he needs to take a little trip down to the Marley's Lane? Let me know down below. But Dave, I'll answer that question myself right now. I don't think that it'll take too much longer. Like, you saw those comments from Sheldon Keefe where he's like, we got to protect him. The problem that they have right now is they unfortunately just don't have the bodies to play in the NHL right now. Like, they've got injuries. Jake McCabe's out, but on the right side in particular, you've got Timothy Liljegren and Connor Timmins, which I would imagine that if both those guys were healthy, Klingberg's not even in the lineup. Not in the lineup. But unfortunately, there's just with those guys out, he has to play. But you saw tonight what happened. 4 goals on the ice for 4 goals through the first couple of periods. What did Keefe do? All right, you're down to the third pair. He ended up going third pair with Benoit, and William Lagesson, who is a minors AHLer, was given more trustworthy minutes up with Giordano in the third period. Like that's he lost his job to William Lagesson, Dave. And no, hey, I've actually liked Lagesson. To be honest, he's done his job. Like, this is no disrespect to him. Like, he's actually doing a half decent job here as, a third pair guy. But just goes to show that there's more trust in him making what, $875, maybe $950 than $4 million John Klingberg. So yeah, I think if he continues to play this way and he continues to just not give a crap about defending, when those guys get back and healthy, if he's still playing like this and allowing goals at an alarming rate, yeah, I think that he certainly is one of those candidates that could find himself back in the minors.
It comes to the point where they're so cap strapped too. Like, they can't call guys up and they don't have many options. And we talked to some people when Jake McCabe got injured. People were like, addition by subtraction.
No.
Maybe we were just asking Jake McCabe to do a little bit too much, right? Because even Jake McCabe couldn't get the job done. Giordano can't get the job done. There aren't many other guys, other than if you're putting TJ Brody with him. There aren't many other options that the Leafs have to protect John Klingberg. And really, the best way to protect him right now is not for him to even be in the lineup. Right?
Yeah, you know what? Like, he might need a reset. Now, they're going to Sweden next week, right? So they've got those games in Sweden. They play Minnesota and Detroit, I believe.
Correct.
Are those games. So I look at those 2 games. I think that those have to be get-right games for John Klingberg. If things continue to slide in those games and he still is doing the things that he's doing and he's playing undetailed and he's making wrong decisions, I think when they come back from Europe, they come back from Sweden, that to me is probably like where his leash runs out. They'll let him go there, right? Play in his home country. And I think that, that's a big reason as to why, he's being marketed out there as like, oh, Klingberg's coming home. Nylander's coming home, right? Liljegren, if he's healthy, well, I guess he won't be healthy. But at the time, that was a big thing, right? But they come back from Sweden. I don't think there's any reason to keep him around if he's still playing this poorly. No reason at all. Because you would hope at that point, maybe Timmins is kind of coming back. I know Keefe said he's not that close, but who the heck knows what close even means in Sheldon Keefe's mind. But
yeah, he's been saying close for the last week, so I'm not sure how much closer we can get at this point. And yeah, I think the only thing that's, as you're saying, that's keeping John Klingberg in this lineup is the fact that Leafs are so banged up that they just don't have the ability to afford to bring guys up.
Yeah.
But once Liljegren and once Timmins come back, you have to have a real discussion here about how you get this all to work cap wise too, right?
I mean, I don't think it's much of a discussion. I think it
shouldn't be.
Sorry, John Klingberg. Here is your ticket. Go to Rico Coliseum. Or Coca-Cola, or how it's called now. Coca-Cola Coliseum. This is now your new home because you have lost your privileges to play here based on, how you've looked for the first month and a half of the season. And really the last 2 years. Like, anyone who's been watching this guy play hockey the last couple of years did kind of scratch their heads at this signing for Toronto. And they're like, it's going to be interesting to see how it works because didn't know where he was going to fit, right? Like, you just didn't actually know because you didn't think it would work with McCabe as a shutdown pair because he's not a defensive defenseman. Okay, well, you're not going to probably play him with Morgan Riley, who's going to be like a top defenseman with 20 plus minutes a night. And both those guys are rovers, like not really all that defensively stouts. You don't really want them together. So it's like, okay, are you going to take Brody away from Riley to shelter him with TJ Brody? Are you going to play him on the third pair? Like it never made any sense at all. It's like there was no plan for Klingberg. They just said, "Hey, here's a guy. Let's get him. He's a guy. He's a name. That's who we want to go after on July 1." It's come back to bite them in the ass. I'll tell you that. Luckily, it's only a 1-year deal. They might be able to get out of it. Like, I'd be surprised at this point if he's like with this team come playoff time, because I think Sheldon Keefe's already realized this guy can't. He can't do what I need him to do. There's no trust there. If there's no trust, I mean, he's not going to get played. Just like tonight, third period, barely saw any shifts. Guy played only 15 minutes tonight, and I believe that's a season low. So yeah, I think the leash is very short. Is a roundabout way to get to your answer there.
Yeah, and like there are a lot of bad things here, but I feel like even if you get a few guys to play better defensively, it makes a difference, right? Like he's on the ice for too many goals against.
Well, there's also no reason for like Gio and Klingberg to be on the ice at the same time as the fourth line. And that's like a Keefe thing. That's like why do you have them out there at the same? You've got your most unreliable defenseman and your most unreliable forward groupings out there together against like the top 6 of Ottawa at times. It was kind of bizarre to see that happening. So like deployment too is an issue, and that's why Sheldon's like, we gotta figure out a way to shelter him. But if you're going out on the road, you can't really shelter dudes on the road as much either. So you're just not going to play.
This idea of
half the game.
Protecting Klingberg too, it's like you can really only do that at home, man. You can't protect them on the road because teams are just like, we see this guy, we're going to make sure our best offensive players are against them every single shift.
But even protection, I mean, the guy was on the ice for 15 minutes tonight and gave up 4 goals. Like, how much more can you protect the guy? like Ryan Reeves played like 7 minutes tonight and gave up a goal, right? Was on the ice for another goal. Like that fourth line had a 0% expected goals tonight. It was a very low event, I'll say that. Like they didn't give up a whole lot of chances. Like I was surprised to look at their 5-on-5 numbers and see that they had only given up 2 shots on goal. One of them went into the back of the net, obviously. But they didn't register any shots themselves. It's like they're not doing a whole lot of anything either. And that is a problem. Like you're just not getting much contribution defensively from anyone in the bottom 6. And that goes back to yesterday's conversation. We're not going to go over that again because we screamed about it for like 20 minutes on yesterday's show. You can go check out yesterday's podcast to hear about that. But these are just warts that continue to come up and continue to plague the Leafs early on in the year. And that's why they're sitting here with, a 500 record and currently on the outside looking in on a playoff spot.
Yeah. Like Sheldon Keefe. Can I read the quote from Sheldon Keefe? I'll throw it up on YouTube.
Yeah.
Because I thought this was a pretty pointed answer here. We sit in here and we celebrate guys who score big numbers, score a ton, and all that kind of stuff. We don't talk enough about what we give up. That's the reality. We got to prioritize keeping the puck out of our net.
Bingo. And again, Dave, what we are rehashing yesterday, basically. But like Ryan Reeves, Max Domi, John Klingberg, none of them prioritize keeping the puck out of the back of their net, which is why I still believe that there's an identity crisis here, and the management and coaching staff, I don't think are on the same page and weren't on the same page come July 1. I think maybe Keefe was like, yeah, sure, do whatever. I want to keep my job. And he was like, okay, then we'll give you these pieces. You're going to have to figure it out. But unfortunately, the players just aren't figuring it out. And I don't know if they will, because they haven't throughout their career figured out how to play in their own end. And that's where we have a problem, because Keefe needs them to do that. The Leafs need them to do that. Toronto's given up like 5 goals a game on home ice where you have last change. That should not be happening.
it's
Shouldn't.
crazy how bad they have been at home defensively. Because on the road, they could find ways to only allow 2, maybe 3 goals max. At home, it's like it's crazy just how bad it has been defensively. And look, that while that win against the Lightning was exciting, sometimes it can be a bad thing to win a game like that because it doesn't reinforce lessons that need to be taught.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. I'm just looking at to see what the splits are on the road compared to at home. So, on the road, Toronto giving up 2.17 goals against per game on the road, but then you come back to Scotiabank Arena where you control what happens. You get last change. You're supposed to have your home fans, home building giving you all this energy. You're supposed to play your hardest in front of your home fans. They're giving up 4.86 goals per game on home ice through 7 games at Scotiabank this year. They've given up 34 goals against through 7 games. That's only one fewer than the San Jose Sharks have given up on home ice. That's the only team that's been worse. And I believe that 10-1 drubbing to Pittsburgh was
At home.
in San Jose, if I'm not mistaken. And
was.
maybe like you take that game out, and Toronto by far is averaging the most. Sheldon Keefe is right. Like they need to just focus on defending, win a game 2-1, win the next game 2-1, right? Like they've got Calgary coming in,
It's not even
win
winning
that
the game
game
2-1.
2-1.
Like literally say 2, no more than 2. If we give up more than 2, it's unacceptable. Like we got to bunker it down. Simply like, and Calgary is a team that has struggled, right?
Yeah.
They're not really scoring a lot. Yeah, they've found ways to win some games, but that's a team where Huberdeau got benched for a whole third period. Nazem Kadri scored like his first goal in the Heritage Classic. That was like a month into the season. Like this is that's a team that's reeling offensively. That's the type of matchup you should be going, all right, this is where we can show a little bit of defensive responsibility, right? Bring in that what Sheldon Keefe is looking for.
Yeah. Calgary, who is the next opponent of Toronto, averaging just 2.67 goals per game this year, which is 25th in the NHL. So Toronto should be able to keep them off the score sheet, especially on home ice, but they should also be able to do that against, many other teams, and they really have not been able to do so. But anyways, let's take one more quick break. When we get back, let's go through. Let's talk a little bit about the good, because we've spent so much time just crapping on this team. Let's talk a little bit about the good, and then we can get into Joseph Woll as well as we go through the good, the bad, and the ugly. So we'll get to that in just a moment. But first, let me tell you guys about one of today's show sponsors. It's Parkview Advance. As a business owner, you realize that there are times when receivables might fall behind, but that doesn't mean you need to fall behind on vendor payments, payroll, or rent. For more than 25 years, Parkview Advance has helped businesses secure working capital. From $5,000 to $1.5 million, Parkview Advance can approve your working capital in as little as 24 hours. It's a much easier process than you might imagine. We invite the many entrepreneurs that are listening or Locked On NHL fans to learn more by calling us at 203-675-0071 or go to parkviewadvance.com. If your business needs working capital, call Parkview Advance today. Parkview Advance, helping businesses with their working capital. Go to parkviewadvance.com. Welcome back into the Locked On Leafs podcast. It's Mike DiStefano and Dave Morassutti. We're reacting after a 6-3 Sens victory over the Toronto Maple Leafs on home ice. I was in the attendance, and it sucked, and it was rainy both to and from the game, and the game rained on my parade as well. So it was just an overall tough night, for every Leaf fan, I'm sure, watching that game. But there were some positives. I think you can pull out a couple of positives from tonight's game. Dave, why don't you start? What did you like from tonight? What was good?
Well, I mean, the goal by Nick Robertson, the connection with him and Domi, what a play.
Yeah.
Like, not only the backhand saucer pass over the defenseman. But for Robertson to get his stick on that
The
at
hand
the
eye.
angle that he got at, just an such an unworldly goal. You
Yeah,
don't see those very often.
it was good. And like, Nick Robertson, I thought had a good first game. And I thought tonight, like that line was okay. Like they weren't terrible. They had a couple opportunities early. Actually, I went to the game with Aaron Krolnick actually from First Up. And I remember I turned to him at some point, I think in the first period, and I was like, I'm feeling a Nicky Bobby goal tonight. Just seems like he's got a bit of juice. Sure enough, got a Nicky Bobby goal. So that one was correct. Yeah, I thought that was obviously like just a real cool play. The snipe by Willie also was sick, and just an unbelievable shot placement there by Willie on the 1-0 goal. But I thought that just the second line though, I thought Nylander had a solid game overall. Nylander, Bertuzzi scored his second of the year, I believe tonight, second or third.
Bertuzzi, that was the second.
Second, yeah. Second goal of the year tonight. But that line as a whole, 85% expected goals, out shooting Ottawa 12-2 with 5 high danger chances with 0 given up. And they had a 50% D zone start. So it's not even like they were sheltered in the offensive end with a chance to do damage. It was like, all right, we're going to also play you in the defensive end. And John Tavares, why don't you go out there and win 18 faceoffs tonight so we can transition up ice? And that's exactly what this team did, which is why they ended up with, such a successful, numbers overall, shot discrepancy and whatnot. Yeah, Tavares 18-4 in the faceoff dot tonight. So that whole line, I thought was really good. And it was nice to see Bertuzzi, get rewarded, and hopefully this is, a chance for him to build on this and continue, because let's be honest, Tree Living needs a win here. Needs a win. And if Bertuzzi can at least salvage the UFA signings, it may quiet down a little bit.
Well, I mean, yeah, the Klingberg one makes it tough. He's not even just looking for a win. He's just looking for the scales to balance a little bit. And
yeah,
what I liked with Bertuzzi's game tonight, and they showed it in the intermission report, was just the effort, right? To get to those loose pucks, put pressure on the Senators players in their own zone to make mistakes.
Yeah.
Right. And then obviously the goal, heads up play. He knows where he's going with that puck. So those are the things. Bertuzzi isn't the flashiest player. We knew that. And he doesn't need to be flashy. He just needs to do, as we talked about, the simple things right. And that's what he did tonight. And yeah, I liked that second line. I thought they were the most noticeable line. Just every time they were out there, they weren't spending a lot of time in their own end. They were spending a lot of time in the Senators zone. I thought they should have been rewarded a little bit more for their efforts. So
yeah, they had almost half the shots for the team between, with that line, like 12-2 or was the shot. There were plus 10 on the shot clock with those three out on the ice together, Nylander, Bertuzzi, and Tavares. So that was really good to see. And again, hopefully they can continue to build off of that, and see some more offense production come from that line. Bad tonight. I mean, I think now is probably the time we chat about Joe Woll and what is arguably, but most definitely, his worst game as a pro.
Yeah, it was. I mean, there were a couple goals where, he was left out to dry. We talked about the one where Klingberg was just in la la land, didn't defend anyone. Yep. Not much Joe Woll can do. He can't cover everything, right?
No.
But
there were the backdoor feed too. Like those backdoor feeds are also tough to,
like the Giroux goal, the first Giroux goal where he's at the side. He defends the wraparound. Giroux's left on his own at the side. Not much really he's gonna do about that. But it's the ones where he's beat clean. Those were the backbreakers, and obviously elephant in the room, the play behind the net. I had 2 issues with that play. One, don't know why he thought he had a million light years to just get rid of that puck. But also, where's the guy telling him that the player's coming? Nobody just coming in and saying, heads up, move it, or like something.
That
as much as we want to pile on Joseph Woll for that, you got to help your goaltender out a little bit there too. Like, how is Stützle allowed to just roam free to the goaltender? He beat out a Leafs player to get to Joseph Woll, right? There was a guy
Well,
behind the net there too.
that's details, man. Like that goes back to what
Yeah.
coaches tell you. Like communicate out there. Like communication is key in all walks of life, not just relationships, but like when you're out there on the ice, communication is key. And you're right. The defender need to say, move it, move it, move it. Like that. That means, hey, the guy's coming in, he's forechecking, and he's gonna try and rip this puck off you. You got to move it, move it, move it now. And I didn't hear it when I was in the rink. Anyone yelling that, obviously. And Joe Wall it didn't look as though he heard anything based on how cool as a cucumber he was trying to handle that puck back there. But yeah, just a blunder on that one. I thought the Kubalik goal, where it just went like under his pad, kind of tried to kick save and it goes underneath. And then what was the other? The Chikrin goal that went 5-hole. That's a tough one too. That
Yeah.
was like one of the backbreaker ones too, because that's the one that made it 3-2, and it was like, they took the lead back, and then they end up going into the third period with the lead, and Toronto tied it, and then it's just some tough bounces and sloppy play defensively, and next thing you know, it's a 6-3 hockey game, and Leafs taking an L, and they're now what's their schedule in that? What are they now? They're like a 500 hockey team.
Well, yeah, because they're 6-5-2 right now. And they got the Flames, and then they got the Canucks.
The Canucks, and the team that has scored more goals than like anyone else in the NHL, the Vancouver Canucks. Toronto's got to play them on home ice, where Toronto's given up nearly 5 goals a game. Should be an interesting matchup, but we'll save that.
Thatcher Demko is not a nice matchup either. They have struggled against Thatcher Demko too.
Yeah, that guy's been unbelievable, like MVP-esque goaltending. But we will break that. We'll break that down tomorrow. We'll save that for tomorrow's show, Dave. But I mean, ugly was Klingberg, by the way. If we didn't make that clear,
yeah,
we touched on that earlier in the show, so I don't think we need to go into it anymore. But yeah, you're on the ice for 4 goals against, and you get demoted to the third pair. Sheldon Keefe literally comes out and says, "Oh, how do we help him? We need to protect him." That's not great. Not a good thing to hear if you are an NHL defenseman. 0 shots on goal, 0 hits tonight, 43% expected goals, 2 giveaways also. Just nothing went well for Gio tonight, or for Klingberg tonight, or Gio, who was also on the ice for 4 goals alongside Klingberg. But that'll do it for us here tonight on the podcast. I'd like to thank you all for listening and supporting the show. You can subscribe to the Locked On Leafs podcast on all podcast platforms and receive daily Leafs content. Follow myself on X at Mickey_Canuck. Follow Dave at D_Morassutti, and follow the show as well at Locked On Leafs. Go ahead, leave a like if you enjoyed this video and a comment down below on YouTube, or reach out to us on social as well. We'll be back with another episode for you guys tomorrow. We'll tee up the weekend back-to-back with Calgary and Vancouver coming to town. But until then, keep it locked right here on Locked On Leafs.